Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Morey. Welcome to our town hall presentation on the psychedelics ballot question in Massachusetts and psychedelic-assisted therapy for veterans. I myself am the spouse of a veteran with severe PTSD. I was diagnosed with PTSD myself and was lucky enough to get psychedelic-assisted therapy overseas with some of the people on this call. I want to introduce our guest speakers tonight. First, we have Jesse Gould of the Heroic Hearts Project, CJ LoConte, who is a former Army officer and a Duxbury resident on the South Shore, right next door to me. I'm in Marshfield. Next, we'll have Dr. Andrea Lucie, who is a psychedelic facilitator at Red Path Retreats in Mexico, Allison Wilson of the Hope Project, and Tamar Todd, who is our attorney and policy expert, who's going to answer some questions go a little in depth into the ballot question, and we'll have a section at the end for questions. So first off, the reason why we're all here is, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone, we're facing a huge mental health crisis in this country. Researchers estimate that between 17 and 44 veterans take their own lives each day. We have 1 in 3 Massachusetts residents reporting symptoms of anxiety, depressive disorder, and for many people, even though they are in therapy, taking medication daily, learning coping mechanisms, trying to get by, for too many people, these tools aren't working, and we need different options. So why natural psychedelics? There's been a lot of research, there's been a lot of conversation in the media, but the research is out there. Institutions like Mass General Hospital, Johns Hopkins, and others have found that psychedelic medicine is really, really effective in treating depression, PTSD, anxiety, and other mental health and physical health issues. So much so that the FDA has granted psilocybin, which is one of the substances in the ballot question, breakthrough therapy designation for treatment-resistant depression, as well as major depressive disorder, meaning that it might demonstrate substantial improvement over what we have currently available. And roughly 3/4 of psychiatrists polled agreed that psychedelics should be legal for medical use. So just a really, really quick overview of the ballot question. Tamar is going to get into the specifics when it's her turn. But the important thing to realize is that it's a regulated therapeutic framework. So modeled on what's been done in Oregon and Colorado, the ballot question is going to create a really responsible, regulated program that ensures therapeutic access. It's going to bring additional tools to people like veterans, first responders who struggle with PTSD, people who have anxiety, depression, terminal illness, and many other afflictions, people who have tried to get help elsewhere and haven't found it and deserve access to true deep healing. It's going to be for individuals 21 and older seeking care at a licensed healing center. There's going to be a training program for facilitators and a tiered licensing model, and there will be no storefronts or retail sales. That's a really important piece to remember. Personal use, we will, the measure removes the threat of arrest for adults 21 and older possessing limited amounts of natural psychedelic medicine, and there will be no public use, and the sale of psychedelics is not going to be allowed. That's one thing we want to make sure to really hammer home. The therapeutic framework, Dr. Lucie is going to go into a little more detail on this, but there's basically 4 pieces on the next slide. There's a screening process, so we want to make sure that people who are considering this, it's a good fit for them. This medicine is not for everyone. So the screening piece is really, really important. Preparation is working with the facilitator to make sure that the patient knows what to expect, as well as their struggles, their goals. The third step is the actual administration of the medicine. And the fourth piece, which is really crucial, which Dr. Lucie will talk about as well, is integration and the therapy piece of processing the experience. That was the ballot question. Absolutely will not create an industry that's similar to cannabis. We're not going to have dispensaries, even though these are both plant medicines. They're going to be handled very different. There will be no retail sales, no public use. It's going to be a medical model, regulated medical model, and we want everyone to know that psychedelics aren't a good fit for every single person. There's guardrails, there's safety measures that are central components of this ballot question to keep it safe. And I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Jessie, who's going to give us a quick update on what's happening in other states, and then we'll get into our guest speakers.
Yeah, so beyond Massachusetts, psychedelic legislation is gaining momentum nationwide. And in Oregon and Colorado, these are both states that have passed legislation decriminalizing and creating access to certain natural psychedelics via ballot referenda in recent years. The 2020 ballot measure 109 in Oregon created a program to allow licensed service providers to administer psilocybin-producing mushrooms to people who are 21 or older. And as of June, over 3,500 clients have been served since June of 2023. 27 licensed service centers have been operating, 326 facilitators' licenses have been approved, and there are 26 facilitator training programs and 10 manufacturers in the state. Colorado's ballot measure, Proposition 122, on the other hand, was approved slightly more recently in 2022 and created the Regulated Natural Medicine Access Program for licensed healing centers to administer natural medicine services. This ballot initiative also removes criminal penalties for limited personal use of natural psychedelics, and a recent public health and safety official report demonstrates that there have been no adverse outcomes since the decriminalization took place. Colorado is still in the process of drafting their rules and regulations for their program, which is estimated to launch in 2025. Moving along to Utah next. In more recent news, as of March of this year, Utah legislators unanimously passed the Republican-led Senate Bill 266, which established a pilot program for psilocybin and MDMA treatment options at 2 facilities, being the University of Utah and Intermountain Health. The program took effect on May 1st of this year and is set to end in 3 years. And in July of 2026, healthcare providers who participate will report their findings to the legislature for them to then decide how to proceed with the program. And then moving along to talk about the nationwide map. So here we have a map that demonstrates the current status of psychedelic legislation in all 50 states. The legislation being tracked here ranges from bills supporting research to bills supporting psychedelic use under medical supervision or in a pilot program, to bills considering legalization and decriminalization. You can see the states colored in blue currently have active legislation regarding psychedelics. The states in green have passed bills. The states in red have decriminalized or legalized psychedelic use via ballot initiatives. And the states in yellow have had legislation that either expired, failed, or became dormant. In total, there are 28 states represented here that have either active or already passed legislation on psychedelics. So through looking at this map, it's clear that the legislative discourse surrounding psychedelic use, particularly as a therapeutic tool, is expanding throughout the US, Massachusetts included. I'm going to hand it back over to Jeannie.
So we can start with our first speaker, Jessie Gould of Heroic Hearts.
Thanks, Jamie, and thanks for putting this together, and thanks everybody for showing up. Very exciting. So my name is Jesse Gould. I am a former Army Ranger. I did 3 combat deployments to Afghanistan. I was a non-commissioned officer, so in charge of many junior Rangers in training and overseas operations. Got out, hit mental struggles, and then just hit dead end through conventional medicine. It was really just a fast track to medication, and PTSD being a life sentence. I was fortunate. I stumbled upon talk about these psychedelics. I had to go to Peru to ayahuasca and went in with all the doubts in my mind of how's this going to help. But to my surprise, it did. I established Heroic Hearts Project, which is a nonprofit in 2017 to connect other veterans to these life-saving treatments, as well as educate and engage in policy. So we will be active in Massachusetts as we were in Oregon and Colorado and many other states. And so what we've been doing is connecting, creating this program of support. Really exciting. Starting last year, we were able to operate in Oregon. Next year, we'll be able to operate in Colorado. To date, we've served over 1,000 veterans through psychedelic treatments. Allison on our team too will talk about how we've been able to support the spouses and families with her help in this case. And we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't extremely effective. And the reason so many veterans are going is because the current treatments are just not working. And you're probably going to hear that a few times tonight. Is there is this evidence-based care, but the efficacy rates are so low, and the veteran suicide rate is estimated anywhere between 17 and 44 take their own lives a day, which amounts to about 150,000 veterans that have taken their own life in the past 20 plus years, which is abysmal, which is a tragedy, right? And we are seeing pretty amazing results with psychedelics. Again, not for everybody, but for those that do decide and go through the full program and preparation, it can be phenomenally successful. And what we have really been advocating is the sort of group therapy and retreat style model in Oregon, which has had great success, because a big factor in a lot of these mental health illnesses, whether it's PTSD, depression, and we're all experiencing it, is isolation, right? We need to get back to supporting each other. We need to get back to community. We need to get back to having more tools available, which just are not there. But the light is at the end of the tunnel. We are finally seeing some amazing results. We are finally starting to have access to this. And really it is, even if this seems off kilter to you, it is showing these results scientifically. And it's just the more tools, the better. Veterans, first responders, everybody just deserves more treatments out there, because there really has not been innovation in the last 20 years. So we're super excited about this. You'll be hearing my voice probably too much in the coming months to support this, but it's nothing to be afraid of. There's regulations, there's all these guidelines to make sure it's safe. We're already seeing some great results in Oregon. We're excited about moving into Colorado. And again, it's, if people don't want to do it, they don't have to. But for those that really need it, it just provides more options. And it really has been unlocking a variety of help for different mental health illnesses and addictions and all sorts of things. So really an exciting time in mental health. So if you want more information, you're a veteran, Heroic Hearts Project, we're here to provide that, and we're here to help in any way we can.
Thanks, Jesse. Next up, we have CJ.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight and allowing me to speak. It's really an honor and privilege to be here. As Jamie said, I'm CJ LoConte. I'm a Duxbury, Massachusetts native, and as like Jesse, an Army veteran as well. After graduating Duxbury High School, I went to West Point, where I graduated in 2017 as an infantry officer, and my first duty assignment was out at Fort Carson, Colorado, where I was able to lead a rifle platoon during a deployment. And during this deployment, we had 4 soldiers attempt suicide, and one of which I witnessed, while we were overseas. And as a 24-year-old, kid, really, over there, that was really the first time that I came face to face with the depths of despair that mental health and mental illness can bring people. 6 months after getting back from deployment, we had a soldier take their own life, and I think as leaders, we really reflect the praise and often shoulder the blame, and that hit me really hard. Began having nightmares, began losing focus on the mission, and really began just becoming kind of enraged, a different person. And I did what I think many of us often do best, and just shoved it down, bottled up my emotions, and buried myself in my work, thinking I'll get over it. I'll get past it, when I'm out, when the uniform comes off, it'll be good like that. And that just wasn't the case. I was extremely, wrong in that. I not even 9 months after getting out of the military, I was on 9 different antidepressants. I was on a 10-minute medication management appointment every quarter. And I was numb. I was alone and numb to the world. And 3 months into my second semester at Wharton, I was hospitalized at the Philadelphia VA with suicidal ideation. And it was actually here that a doctor told me, hey, you should really check out the research around psilocybin mushrooms. And at first I was admittedly taken aback. Psychedelics, to me, that was another world. And but I dug myself into the research, and really the credible science that we're seeing come out of Hopkins and Langone, and I was blown away. So I had to try and experience for myself, to just try, because I think when we reach out for help, when we're just constantly not given the help that we need, the help that we deserve, you start to think, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe, what's the point? What's the point of even going back and trying? And so I was on a low, last limb there, and had my experience with psilocybin mushrooms, and just felt like a weight, had been let go, and was able to see this ineffable physical representation of what I deemed to be the blame, the shame, the guilt, the bottled up emotions that I had been having since, really since I had been deployed in 2019, and really just broke down for the first time. And that complete, 180 on my situation. Was able to look at myself, look at my problems, look at, my loved ones through an objective lens for the first time, and finally feel worthy in my own skin. It was profound. I credit that experience with saving my life, because 7 days after 7 days after that experience, I had another former soldier who I was very close to die by suicide. And ever since that, seeing my 180, and being in the grips of mental illness as I was, and seeing my 180, and that, shook me. And ever since, I've become just want to be an advocate in any way, shape, or form I can be. Going back to the Kennedy School this year to get a public policy degree, and really, invest time and effort into studying, how we can make this work from a regulatory perspective. It's time that we heal, as a community, not just the veteran community, but I think as a whole, and I believe that, these medicines can bring that about, in a great way. So thank you very much for the time, and hope to continue pushing this mission forward with you guys.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, CJ. And now we have Dr. Andrea Lucie.
Thank you, Jamie. So good evening, everybody. My name is Andrea Lucie. I am the founder of the Red Path Spiritual Healing Retreats based in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and I have a PhD in mind-body medicine. For the last 31 years, I have been working for the military in various positions, including in physical and mental health rehabilitation roles, and as a mind-body provider and therapist at Bethesda, Walter Reed, Camp Lejeune, the National Interpretive Center of Excellence, and lately at the University of Colorado. Originally from South America, I was raised at the foothills of the Andes Mountains by my grandparents, who were healers in the small rural community. My roots are indigenous, Mapuche. We are people of the earth. Witnessing my grandparents using natural medicine and spiritual practices to heal others left a long-lasting impression in my child's mind. After my rigorous scientific-based training in the United States, I came full circle to my roots to offer this ancient form of medicine to my community. For the last 4 years, I have been offering sacred medicine therapeutic retreats to veterans, first responders, including firefighters, police officers, and their spouses. I organize retreats and offer these retreats in partnership with nonprofit organizations such as Heroic Heart Project, the Hope Project, the Siren Project, VETS, and the Invisible Wounds Foundation. In partnership with this nonprofit organization, candidates to attend a retreat will get a full medical intake and screening. They will get preparation, including coaching and diet, and integration after the retreat is over. These steps are crucial to a successful integration of the medicine work into the participants' post-retreat life. This therapeutic model combines complementary and integrated medicine and native medicine and traditions. I know firsthand the healing powers of this sacred medicine, not only because of my own healing, but also observing hundreds of participants that have gone through these retreats that I have facilitated. Only in the last 4 years, we have provided over 60 retreats to the veterans and first responders community. However, not everybody is able to travel abroad to experience this healing medicine, so there is a need to provide it the right way, right at home. When the medicine is offered with respect, with the reverence that it deserves, with the knowledge of the traditional indigenous ways of healing, it has the power to heal, not just to numb a symptom. We shall not deny this earthy, natural, and potentially life-saving medicine to those in need. I believe that it's our duty as kind human beings to help each other with compassion. It is also my hope that this ancient form of medicine is available to those in need to have a fair chance to live a fulfilling life with contentment and purpose. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much. And next, Allison from the Hope Project.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for allowing us this space to share our stories and answer any questions you guys might have. My name's Allison Wilson. I am the founder of the Hope Project. It is a nonprofit that supports the spouses. So I know we do a lot of talk about the veterans in this space, but I am a spouse myself to a veteran Navy SEAL, and he was in for 16 years. We have 5 children, and the transition was not exactly what we thought it was going to be. I was very used to being extremely strong when my husband was in the military. I was not used to being very strong when he was out. I really thought it was going to be my turn when he got out of the military, and that I was going to have the space to do my own healing and to do my own work. And that was completely the opposite of what was given to me. My husband went to his, after a pretty failed transition, as he called it, he went to his own first psychedelic healing journey about 8 years ago when he got out. My husband lost more friends by suicide than when he was at war. And that was after he got out. So that can just tell you how often we were getting the calls that, friends were dying by suicide. When he went to he went to Ibogaine for his first psychedelic journey. And when he went there, I very much felt betrayed. I was very resentful. I was not the ball of love for him to come home to that everyone says that you should be. It felt like another deployment to me. It felt like I wasn't involved. It felt like I didn't know who this person was that was coming home. And I went and quickly spiraled. I was on benzos for 16 years from postpartum depression, from anxiety, from him being deployed, and coupled that with alcohol abuse, abuse with, depression medication and suicidal ideations. And it took me about 2 years after his psychedelic journey to get to a place where that was pretty much my only hope. So I myself went to my own psychedelic journey in 2020. It was about 4 years ago now. So gosh, 2020. And that journey saved my life. it saved my marriage, it saved my children's lives. You know, this is so generational as well. And during that journey, I found out that everything that I've gone through in my life was so purposeful to me starting the Hope Project, to me being able to help other spouses in this space, to me being able to help other women in this space. So I came home, I hit the ground running, and I started the Hope Project. And we started as exactly what I knew that I needed, coaching for spouses when their veteran spouse went to a journey, and teaching them that it's okay to have these resentful feelings, that they have something for themselves, that it's okay to, you know, want to do this on their own. So teaching them how to hold the space for not only their own feelings, but their husband's feelings when they came home, or their wife's feelings when they came home. And it started to get very big very quickly. And, you know, what I would get from these women were, we didn't realize there was anything for us. So that opened up becoming a liaison to different retreat centers. I raised funds through the nonprofit to be able to not only support these women with the prep work, but also the retreat, the you know, the airline fees, and then the integration, which turned into a very, very large community. Heroic Hearts Project was there for me since day one. Jesse and my husband are dear friends. And they, you know, he helped me from starting the nonprofit on how to do that on LegalZoom to, you know, kind of just everything, anything and everything in between. About a year and a half ago, we decided to merge. So we are under one nonprofit now, and now we can encompass the entire family unit. The Hope Project has supported over 400 women to date, with coaching, with community. Now we host our own spouse retreats, so the spouses have something for themselves. We do that with Dr. Andrea. We will be having our very first retreat in Oregon in September. We are hoping to, you know, bring this to Colorado as well, but you know, our retreats, they started in Mexico with Dr. Andrea, and they are absolutely beautiful. I would say 98 to 99, maybe even 100% of the women that go to these retreats with us say that it is the most, besides having their children, it's the most impactful thing that they've ever done in their lives. They're able to find love for themselves. They're able to find the community that they have lost. And with that comes the generational healing, the not ending up at the 96% divorce rate in the SEAL teams, you know, the kids now getting their parents back. And then also just what we have with this robust program, just so you guys know, you know, again, psychedelics are not an end all be all. These are tools to uncover what really we've been holding. And the spouses and the secondary PTSD is a real thing. So we're now doing research on secondary PTSD with these spouses. We have 2 calls a week that continue forever to continue this community work with them. We have different tools like TRE and different workshops that are offered to the spouses. So this community of women can always have this community around them. So, you know, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have, but, you know, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I'm excited for this for Massachusetts.
Thank you so much, Allison. Yes, I can testify to the powerful healing that occurs. I went on a Hope Project retreat with Allison and Dr. Lucie, and the way you explained that was totally accurate. It was absolutely one of the most profound experiences in my life. So thank you for that. And I'm excited to have that option for people in Massachusetts. So I want to kick it over to Tamar, who will tell us a little bit about how that could look in Massachusetts.
Sure, thank you. So I'm Tamar Todd. I'm an attorney, and I was involved in the drafting of the measure for Massachusetts, as well as for Colorado and some of the other states. And I don't want to, you know, Jamie in the beginning hit on some of the specifics about what the initiative does. And I'll also note that in the chat, there's a link to the Attorney General summary that you can go to and read sort of all the finer details of it specifically. So I don't want to go through all of that because it would take too much time, but I want to make 3 sort of general points about the overall design and structure and language of the initiative and what it's aiming to do and how it will work. The first important point is that there's certain elements of the ballot question that are very strict in terms of how the program must be implemented and designed. You know, on the base level, it's a ballot initiative. So the voters are going to be telling the state, you have to create this program and it has to create meaningful access to these substances. It has to be offered under the care of a trained and licensed facilitator to folks who are 21 years older who can benefit from them. And then, as Jamie also mentioned, it's very strict that in terms of this regulated program, these substances can only happen within this program and be used under the supervision of one of these trained and licensed facilitators and must be at an approved location. So it's not the type of thing, as we mentioned with cannabis, where you buy it and you take it home and then you use it. This is supervised, facilitated use by someone who's trained and does not allow for those retail sales. And then in addition to those strict requirements, there's a number of areas where rules must be promulgated and enforced that are designed around creating guardrails and safety for the participants in this program. There has to be a comprehensive safety screening to make sure participants know what's going to happen, that this is suitable for them. It's not for everybody, and there may be reasons why someone does not want to undertake it. So there has to be comprehensive screening. The person has to give informed consent, which means they're informed about what's going to happen and whether it's right for them, and they consent to it. The facilitator has to be trained for the participant who they're working with, and there will be tiers to ensure that the facilitator has appropriate level of training. There have to be measures to prevent any sort of abuse from the facilitator, you know, which is one of the problems with an unregulated environment, is that you can't guard against that and prevent it. The substances have to be tested and safe and labeled. And then finally, there's a requirement that information be collected and data be collected so that we can understand and evaluate what's happening with the program and improve it as it goes along and maximize the benefits and restrict you know, any potential negatives. The second point I want to make is that while it's very strict in those regards, it's also created to be very flexible in terms of how those strict guardrails and safety measures are created. And the reason for that is that we don't know upfront and want to codify in law specifically how everything must function. That we want to give to experts to really spend time discussing and looking at the research and developing the best program possible. So it establishes an advisory board that's comprised of a wide range of experts in all sorts of areas, from psychedelic research, science, veterans health, healthcare access, mental health, program evaluation, data collection, product safety, first responders, indigenous uses. All these folks will come together and they will help direct how these rules are promulgated that will be required to establish these guardrails. And in that vein, the initiative establishes a long implementation timeline. So it's not going to pass and then in January 2025, everything's up and running and you can access it. It's going to be a process of almost 2 years of, with this advisory committee meeting, making recommendations, promulgating rules, adopting the rules. And we won't see applications and licensure come out until September of 2026. And so it's going to be a process. And then the final third point I want to make is that there's an advantage to not being the very first state to go out front. Massachusetts can look at what's happened in Oregon and in Colorado, and we did that in the crafting of it and tried to make a number of improvements on the policy. And just to point out a couple of those. One is around better data collection and analysis of outcomes. So we're building that in from the very beginning. So we start collecting information from the very first day and can really evaluate and understand the program. And we also tried to create some better pathways for access for some particularly vulnerable groups, like people at the end of life and also veterans, to affirmatively ensure that there were going to be access to services in existing healthcare facilities, in group settings, in places where some of these vulnerable groups will need to access and feel comfortable accessing it. So we tried to incorporate some of those of what we've learned so far. And with as I mentioned, the flexibility built in, we'll be able to incorporate more about what we learn in Massachusetts and as we see Colorado roll out. So I'll stop there and turn it back over to Jamie. And I think hopefully we have some time for some questions or follow-up comments.
Yeah. Does anyone, so if you have a question, you can drop it into the chat.